Hi there, and welcome to Hyundai Power Equipment. My name's Adrian, and today we're going to look at some routine servicing on your HYM510SPER Roller Lawn Mower. Let's start with changing the air filter. The air filter is in this box on the front left-hand side of the engine from the operator position. To open the box to remove the air filter, push down on the two tabs at the top and simply hinge it away. You can then remove the air filter from the box like this. When you come to replace with the new air filter, simply put it down in with the paper side out, putting it into the lid in the pocket, and simply close the box back up, putting the two tabs in the holes and push back until it clicks. And that's how to change the air filter. Let's move on to changing the spark plug. The spark plug is located underneath the spark plug cap here on the front of the engine. Firstly, gently remove the spark plug cap, taking care not to wrench it out so that you pull the spark plug cap completely off. So that's the spark plug cap removed, and we'll tuck that to one side, and this reveals the spark plug. Now, using a spark plug spanner or a box spanner, place the spanner over the spark plug right down onto the hexagon and simply anti-clockwise loosen off the spark plug. May take a couple of turns just to get it finger tight. There we go. And that's the spark plug loose. So now that it's loose, I can simply unscrew anti-clockwise the spark plug out of the cylinder head. Couple of turns and that's the spark plug removed. To replace with a new spark plug, simply locate the hole and firstly screw the spark plug into the cylinder head using your fingers. Don't use the spanner at this stage, because should you cross thread it, you'll damage the cylinder head. And there we are, we've got the spark plug started in the hole. So I'll screw it all the way in until I can't turn it with my fingers anymore. Then back on with the spark plug spanner and tighten the spark plug firmly. With a new spark plug, it does have a compressible ring, so it may take half a turn or so to tighten it down after it first meets. So that's the spark plug back in the hole. So I'll simply retrieve the spark plug cap, put it back over the spark plug, locate it and push it firmly home. And that's how to change your spark plug. So let's move on to changing the engine oil. Now firstly, I'd recommend that you run the lawnmower for 5 to 10 minutes to get the engine oil warm before starting to change the oil, so that when it's warm it's thinner and you'll get more of the dirty engine oil out. So let's say we've run it for 10 minutes and now we're about to take out the engine oil. The simplest way on this model is to take the engine oil out through the dipstick hole, which is the filler and emptying hole as well. So firstly, we'll remove the dipstick. There we are. Now there are two ways that you can take the engine oil out. The first method would be to get an appropriate jug or container, and probably a two-man job this, to place it somewhere near the top, maybe with a funnel, and to tip the lawnmower up on its side. Quite a simple job if you're up on a bench, something like that, and pour out all of the engine oil, gradually lifting it until no more oil comes out. And that's the simplest way to drain the engine oil. I actually have one of these vacuum bottles, which is basically a little vacuum pump on top of a bottle, which can be placed down the dipstick tube, and these are available from our parts department. I shall give you the number later. And you can simply extract the warm engine oil with the pump in a clean manner, and there's less chance of spillage. There's actually no more engine oil in this engine. So that's the cleanest, neatest way of doing it. So having removed all of the engine oil, we need to move on to refilling with fresh engine oil. So to refill with fresh engine oil, we recommend a 1030 or a 1540 grade engine oil. and a suitable bottle like this will give you the easiest way of filling it. Now, it takes engine oil straight down through the filler tube, and I recommend that you take it very slowly when filling it up. So small amounts at a time, perhaps a couple of 100 millilitres at a time, and allow a little bit of time for the oil to run down the filler tube, and then test it with your dipstick by simply placing the dipstick on the top and then withdrawing it. Now we'll show you the graduations on the top of the dipstick. So on the dipstick you will see the word minimum at the bottom and maximum at the top, and a cross-hatched area in between. So the correct engine oil level will be at the top of the cross-hatched area, so that's just where it says maximum. So we'll gradually fill the tube until the oil level, when we dip our dipstick in, is at the maximum. But again, allow time for the engine oil to run down the tube before testing. So having filled the engine oil back up to the correct level, we can simply replace the dipstick by screwing it back into the hole clockwise, and just make sure that the dipstick's tight. There we are. And that's your engine oil changed. When storing your lawnmower for long periods of time, such as over winter, it's quite possible that if you've left any fuel in the machine, that it will have gone stale. And you'll find in the spring, when you come to use your lawnmower, that it will not start. And mostly this is due to stale fuel. So let's show you how to drain the fuel from your lawnmower. So the simplest way to remove the majority of the stale fuel would be to undo the fuel cap, and again using your vacuum pump to place the pump in the fuel tank and suck the fuel out of the tank. If you haven't got a vacuum pump, then we can remove the rest of the stale fuel via the carburetor, and we also need to drain the carburetor even if we haven't removed the fuel from the tank. To drain the float bowl of the carburetor, we need to remove this nut. If you haven't drained the fuel tank, there will be a fair amount of fuel comes out from the hole afterwards, so I'd suggest you get a funnel with a short piece of pipe into a suitable container. If you have drained the fuel tank, then simply some paper towel, something like that, to absorb the small amount of fuel that comes out of the float bowl. So undo the nut, and you will see that there are two nuts on this, one at the bottom facing vertically upwards and one on an angle. It's the one on an angle we need to remove. So having loosened it, I'll just remove this nut. Now if there were fuel in here, the small amount of fuel would drain out from that hole. Take care when you remove the nut that you don't lose the little plastic washer. So once the fuel is completely drained from the carburetor, replace the little bolt, and again using a 10mm spanner, just tighten it back firmly into position. And that's how to drain the last of the fuel from the carburetor. So having drained all the stale fuel from the engine and the fuel tank, all that remains is to fill it up again with fresh unleaded petrol. The fuel tank, never fill it more than up to about 25mm from the very top of the tank. And if you do spill any fuel, make sure that you wipe it all up and allow it time to evaporate before restarting the engine. And there we are. That's cleaning the fuel system on your lawnmower. Again, after a long period of storage, you may need to recharge your battery. Using the battery charger provided, plug the jack plug into the little hole in the battery here, and plug the charger into a 13A wall outlet. And that's how to charge your battery. So let's move on to adjustment of the OPC handle. Now the OPC handle is this handle at the front here, and as you can see, this one has quite a bit of slop in it. Now if this handle is out of adjustment, your lawnmower may well not start, and this could be the case when you first build your lawnmower as well, so it's useful to know. And as you can see, there's a fair bit of slop and movement in this handle before it even starts to pull the cable, so it is out of adjustment. And as you can see, there is a fair bit of movement in the cable here. So let's look at adjustment of the OPC cable. So the cable from the OPC handle terminates on this position here, on the left hand side of the engine from the operator position. And as you can see, there's a fair bit of slop in this cable. So to adjust it, use a pair of 12mm spanners and just loosen off the two nuts. So I'll just loosen the front nut away from the bracket with my fingers so that it's got plenty of room to move, and I'll just gently pull back on this cable until I feel resistance. Then I'll tighten up the rear nut and tighten up the front nut, finger tight, and just test my handle at the top of the machine. And yes, I can see that's removed all the slack, and I'll take you back to that in a moment. So having done this, I'll just lock the two nuts off again, locking them back in position, and that should be the correct adjustment, and there's just a small amount of play in this cable here. So having adjusted the OPC on the engine, we can now see that the handle operates freely and there's very little slack in it now compared to what there was, and just a little bit of movement in the cable here. So that's the OPC handle adjusted. So our next step is going to be moving on to changing the blade and the belt on your lawnmower. Now, for safety reasons, I'd strongly recommend that you remove the spark plug cap. So I'll just remove the spark plug cap, and this will remove any chance of inadvertently starting the lawnmower while your hands are underneath in the blade area. So for safety reasons, we've removed the spark plug cap to avoid inadvertently starting the lawnmower, and it's probably best to do this after you've drained the engine oil and the fuel from the lawnmower, as we do have it tipped on its side. So to remove the blade, again I'd recommend wearing good strong gloves for this. We need to undo this bolt in the centre. Now it takes a 17mm spanner or socket. I use a 1/2" drive socket here, and it undoes anti-clockwise in the conventional way. So there we are. I've loosened the bolt. Now we'll pay attention to which way this is sat on the lawnmower. As you can see, there's a lozenge or elongated hole here and a circular one here. It has to go back on there in that orientation. So we'll finish undoing the bolt, and again we'll pay attention to the direction of this washer. You'll notice that it is domed on the outside face and hollow on the inside face. So should it fall away, something like that, you know that the hollow face goes against the blade and the domed towards the head of the bolt. So that's the bolt. So to change the blade, simply pull it away, and that's it, that's the blade removed. To replace with a new blade, you will see it has to go on this way round because of the circle and the lozenge. If you were to put it on upside down, it won't fit because the lozenge is going in the wrong direction. So there's only one way it will go on, and that is the correct way. So if we weren't doing the belt at this stage, we could simply do this bolt back up, again tighten it with the socket. Now there is a torque reading for this, which is available from our parts department because all the models have different torque readings. So if you do have a torque wrench, you can set the tension on this bolt to the correct torque. For the purposes of this, I'm going back on with my 1/2" drive and tightening it up until it is, let's describe it as tight as you can get it with a 1/2" ratchet without, breaking its neck. Reasonably very tight. So we've shown you how to change the blade. Now let's look at the drive belt for the lawnmower. So again, we'll have to remove the blade. So remove the spark plug cap, probably best drain all the oil and fuel, and let's just undo the blade as I just showed you. We'll remove the bolt and washer and remove the blade itself. I'll place that to one side. Now here we have the blade drive flange. That will also pull out from the lawnmower. Now inside here there is a drive key. So I'll pull it out, and you'll see that there is a keyway in the one side. There are two drive pegs and a key here. We just need to make sure that we don't lose that key. When we put it back on, we need to line it up with the key in the hole and pop it back on. So just be aware not to lose this key. Sometimes they stay in the slot and sometimes they don't. So we'll move on from there. The belt is located underneath this plastic guard. So again, I've got a little 10mm nut driver here. We need to remove this 10mm nut. It's an M6 and 10mm across the flat, so a 10mm socket will do the job. I'll just keep screwing it with the nut. Not quite. Comes out. And you'll see on the other side, on the top of the deck of the lawnmower, is the little bolt which I've pulled out from the other side. So I'll just pop that guard out of the way, and I'll place the little bolt in there as well for safekeeping. This now gives us access to the belt itself. So having opened up access to the belt, we can simply roll the belt off the top of this pulley here. So I'll pull it forward and simply roll it off the top of the pulley, take it out of the engine output shaft, feed it backwards and away from the pulley on the gearbox. And that's how to remove the belt. To replace the belt, again, if you take the belt like this, if you look in the back, you will see how it fits over the pulley. It's on the rear pulley, which looks very similar to this one, so that I've got it pulled tight. Again, I'll go over the front shaft, onto that shoulder, and just roll it back into position. It is quite simple, this. There we are. And that's the new belt fitted. So having fitted the new drive belt, we'll take the plastic cover, slot it back in the back, making sure that this plastic lug here goes behind the metal, into position here, on at the front, and I can see that's in the correct position because I can see straight through the hole at the back. So I'll take the little square-headed pin, I'll just feed it through from the top of the mower back through the hole. There we go. Put the nut back on my nut driver, back into the hole, and screw the nut back on, tightening it down, and that's the guard replaced. So to move on from there, we'll refit the drive plate. Again, the key is in position. We'll line up the keyway in the drive plate with the key and refit. Again, rotating till we get on the drive dogs at the back, and that's the plate refitted. Let me just clarify that. These two slots have to line up with these two drive dogs, and the keyway has to line up to the keyway. So if you started on there, and let's say it doesn't line up with the drive dogs at the back, which you can clearly see, I'll just rotate it until it does, push it home, so it's now engaged on the two drive dogs and engaged on the key. So moving on from there, again I'll put my glove back on for this. We'll refit the blade, and as I said, there's only one orientation it can go because of these drive log pegs. And put the bolt back in position with the washer the right way around, hollow side towards the blade. Again, using my 1/2" ratchet, I'll tighten back down on the main bolt that holds the blade on, very firmly indeed with my 1/2" ratchet, and should you wish, there is a torque setting available from our after sales department for the torque setting of this bolt. So that's how to change the belt and the blade. Well, I do hope you found this demonstration useful. For more information on this or any of our other products, simply visit www.hyundaipowerequipment.co.uk. I've been Adrian, and happy mowing.